Okay, a guy can agree to the deal, he can sign the contract, and he can still not pay you if it's that type of business, and or you can have clients that pay you like monthly clients, but they're just not on time. I dealt with some really big corporations, and a lot of them didn't, well, not a lot of them, but I would say maybe 10-15% didn't pay their bills on time because the girl in charge of it would just forget or just not care to pay it, even though this is a billion-dollar company. The person in charge was negligent. And our back office was negligent too on following up on the invoices. So a lot of the time I would have to take that into my hands and then, chase down all my monthly payments at the end of the month so I could get paid my commissions, because our back office was terrible. And the companies that I was dealing with, their back office was negligent and terrible. And it wasn't set up on an automated payment system because, again, the company that I worked for was not run properly, not efficient, didn't have things automated, and had a terrible office manager in charge of it, and in charge of a situation where an app could have done the job, like an automatic app or an automatic software could have done all the accounting and the payments, and it could have had it automated. So that's something that you'll find, even after they've signed the contract, it's still about getting paid. And lastly, some buyers will tell you that they sent you the money when you didn't get the money. And some clients will actually lie about that. And when you bring it up, they'll tell you, oh, the bank must be slow to process the payment. It should be there in a couple days. In these cases, it's usually because the guy literally doesn't have the money and is trying to buy himself some time because he's too embarrassed to tell you he doesn't have the money to pay you. Oftentimes he'll buy that time and then just pay you 2 days later and act as if the payment finally went through, when in reality he was just telling you it was paid, and then because on the date or on the late date, which is more likely, like the date has already been late and you've been hounding him, and then when he gets the money 2 days later, that's when he actually pays you. Okay, and if you deal with the situation, by the way, calling him out for being a liar is not the best move, even though that's a pretty bold-faced lie to tell somebody. Handling the situation delicately and allowing him to save face is the right move, because remember, it's about getting paid, not being right, and getting him to book again with you next month. Calling him a liar and telling him, I know you didn't have the money, is a pretty good way to make sure that that client stops doing business with you. So, a couple things to keep in mind. Doesn't matter if the lead time is promising. Doesn't matter if they tell you they'll get back to you, or they tell you they're interested, or they tell you they're going to do the deal, or they'll tell you that they're going to sign the contract, or they sign the contract, or even they tell you that they've sent you the money. It's not a deal, and it doesn't matter until you have the money in your hand, until that money is in your bank account. That is the only time you know that that buyer is not a liar. Okay, that is the only time you know the deal is done. Until then, it doesn't exist, no matter how good it sounds. Keep that in mind. So you'd be smart to assume that all buyers are liars until proven otherwise, and not be surprised when you have to consistently deal with buyer behavior bullshit. Okay, if you find yourself consistently frustrated to get new clients, it's because you haven't properly managed your expectations. Anger comes from the difference between expectations and reality. Therefore, you want your expectations in line with reality as much as possible. And that comes from using past data effectively. Or if you're new to sales or entrepreneurship, just take my word for it and use my past data and my experiences as the litmus test or the measuring stick for that. Okay. So to wrap up, I want to tell you the smart way to deal with buyer behavior. Number one, charge it to the game. Recognize it as a cost of doing business, and that dealing with client headaches is why you make good money, because most people don't want to deal with clients. Number two, always be polite and professional. Remember that your job is not about being right, it's about getting paid, and everything out of your mouth should maximize your chances of getting paid. Calling a potential client out for lying or getting aggressive is a surefire way to make sure that you don't get paid. Remember, you get paid for selling and for service and being professional in the face of unaccountable behavior. That's called good client service, and it's how you make the big bucks. Sales is not rocket science. It pays well because you do things that other people don't want to do or aren't capable of doing. They're not capable of keeping their composure in the face of someone who's lying to you or who's perhaps not treating you in the way that you want to be treated. And you make the money by having uncomfortable conversations and handling those client headaches with composure. Number 3, manage your expectations. Being angry or disappointed doesn't help you be happier or close more deals. In fact, it has the opposite effect. It's much better to assume buyers are liars until proven otherwise, and adjust your emotions accordingly. Remember that all you have to do is create and optimize and tweak the right sales process, and then follow that consistently, and money will come in and good things will happen. Okay, so if one deal doesn't come in that looked like it was going to come in, don't get angry about it. Remember, anger is just you didn't have the right expectations and you weren't listening to what I said or effectively using past data. Don't worry that's going to kill your business. Remember that you follow your procedure, you make all the right calls and the right moves, and keep at it. That money's going to come in and you're going to be good. Which brings us to our next point. Number 4, put in the work. If you're new to salesmanship or entrepreneurship, recognize that it's going to take a lot more work than you expected to get new clients on board and to make the money that you want to make. You might go 1 in 20, 1 in 100, 1 in 300, maybe 1 in 1,000, depending on how high of a price your service is, as well as your abilities to sell. Okay, you can take my word for it that a lot of deals and promising leads will fall through. So make sure to put in work that you would have thought necessary to make up for it. Eventually, you'll figure out your closing percentage so that you can do accurate money math on your targets and know exactly how many outbound touch points you have to make to hit your financial goals. With that said, you always want to aim to improve and optimize your sales process so that you can constantly be increasing your closing percentage. And to give you a rough estimate, in my last job in ad sales, I had to do $40,000 a month just to keep my job in revenue. And to do that, I had to make 100 calls a day. Okay, if it's in your own business, man, you might want to make more for the first year. You might want to make 100 to 400 calls or emails or Facebook messages to potential clients, or all of the above a day, to make sure that you're reaching the right people. Now that depends on the industry. If your industry is smaller, then it's more of a sniper's game, and it's not going to be those huge volume days. This is more likely if you're in B2B and you're selling higher price services, and there's only a certain percentage of companies that can afford them. But you should at least be spending a lot of time on the lead gen and on the specific angles for that. So if you're in a vertical that has a lot of leads, pretty much anyone's a client, then you're kind of going for the shotgun method, which is getting on the phone with 100 to 400 people a day, or at least some of that's emails or whatever. If your industry is higher ticket services and B2B, and only couple hundred companies in your city can afford your services, then it's going to be a sniper's method, and the bulk of your time is going to go into perfecting and tailoring the pitch per that client, and finding the decision maker and doing all that stuff. Okay, number 5, build a money machine. The good news is that life is a layer cake. Okay, the higher you go, the less shit you have to eat, and the more successful you get, the less buyer bullshit you have to deal with. I don't deal with any buyer bullshit in this business right now. I have RLD web design, which is automated, and I've also launched RLD marketing, which we're launching right now as outbound sales, but I'll officially launch that to you guys within the next couple months. 3xing your marketing spend through Facebook ads. But with that said, even on that vertical, my partners are doing the outbound sales for that. I'll probably help on the close, but at this point in my career, I don't have to make outbound sales calls anymore, which is a beautiful thing. But believe me, I put in my dues to get there. I worked hard, saved money, built a business, built a money machine, did what had to be done to get there.